Wish every pregnant mom knew this about breastfeeding before her baby was here. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a mom of 3. I'm also a certified PA and lactation counselor and owner of Mother Lactation. And I just have to share this with you. What I wish every pregnant woman knew going into postpartum and breastfeeding is that the first 2 weeks, even really the first few days to that first week, are critical for breastfeeding, specifically critical for milk supply. If milk supply does not get off to a good start in those early days or those first 2 weeks, it is truly an uphill battle getting your supply up to where you want it to be. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but improvement in supply after the first 2 weeks can be really tricky. It can take a lot of time and effort and be a slow process. Everybody's different. Some women are able to rev it up quickly, even after that first 2 weeks. But in my experience, the importance of those early days is just cannot be overstated. So, what do you do with that information as a pregnant mom who wants to breastfeed her baby? You have got to go into those first several days and first 2 weeks ready to protect your breastfeeding experience and advocate for it. And we've returned to a place where we acknowledge that breastfeeding is the biological norm and it is the best nutrition for your baby. This is not a slight on formula necessarily. Formula is life-saving and needed to nourish babies. And I'm so glad that we have that tool. But it just is no match for breast milk and what breast milk provides. And specifically, nursing at the breast is so good for other things like our oral development. So when we talk about protecting and advocating for breastfeeding, it's not just because it's a nice thing to do or it's so sweet between a mom and a baby, which it is. It's because it really is a key piece of public health, of the health of mom and baby, to be able to nurse at the breast or at least provide breast milk through pumping in bottles. So first thing you're going to do to protect and advocate for your breastfeeding experience during pregnancy and those first 2 weeks is during pregnancy, get just a baseline breastfeeding education. You just need to know the main things, how milk supply is started off well and continued well, how to latch your baby, and what to do if you're separated. I have a simple online breastfeeding course. I actually call it Simple Start that just walks you through what to do day by day in that first week. It's an awesome resource for learning those key things that you need to prepare for so that you can get started off well. So don't skip the education piece. A little bit of prep can go a long way. Second thing is once baby is born, you're going to want to protect that first couple hours. That's the golden hour where mom and baby should be skin to skin with each other so that they can regulate one another, temperature regulates, blood sugar regulates. They can have that first breastfeed together. And then after that, any non-urgent medical things can be done like footprints, weight, all that stuff can wait until after those first 2 hours, but you're going to have to vocalize that. Now, it is standard practice in lots of hospitals that is given automatically that the care team knows that is the biological goal to have mom and baby together uninterrupted for that golden hour or 2. But in a lot of places, it's not. And even in places where it is standardized, it doesn't happen all the time because honestly, they have a lot of things they have to do to check off taking care of you, taking care of baby, and they want to knock all that stuff out. But there really needs to be no rush. So you may need to say, or your care or your partner or someone else on your advocacy team, like your doula or a friend or your mom or whoever's there with you, to say, I want the baby to stay on me unless medically necessary, and I want to wait on that other stuff until after these first couple hours. And if they say they need to take baby away, ask, is this medically necessary to happen right now or for us to be separated while you do it? They can often assess baby on you. They can give baby any immunizations or vitamin K injection or whatever that you're consenting to. They can do that while baby's on you. They don't have to take baby away to do those things. So be ready to speak up for what you want and ask for what you want. You're also going to have to advocate for other things in the hospital. Remind them that you don't want a pacifier for routine use without your consent. You don't want bottle feeding without your consent. If they recommend supplementing, ask if it's medically necessary. And if it is medically necessary, talk to them about the ways that you want to supplement. I go through this in my previous video about building your breastfeeding safety net, of going through how you want to supplement and what you want to use. Once you've got those convictions set, just be ready to be vocal about them. And obviously not in a disrespectful way, but in a, this is my preference, this is me and my baby. And this is what I want to do. And they should, if it's medically appropriate, they should go along with what you desire. So be ready to vocalize and protect those things. When we go back to how important those first few days and couple weeks are for your breastfeeding experience and milk supply, we can't skip over the fact, or we can't skip over the piece of, if you are separated from your baby for a medical reason, what do you do to protect your milk supply? So number one rule is always feed the baby. So that's when you figure out, what are you going to feed them? How are you going to feed it to them? Protect your supply. And how are you going to do that? Using hand expression, just using your hand to express colostrum, saving it in a little vial, freezing it, or pumping. These are ways that we can protect our supply. So if you're separated from your baby, you're going to want to pump or hand express, or both, every 3 hours. And that's from the start of when you pump to the start of the next pump. Every 3 hours around the clock, including overnight, which I know really stinks, but this is a short season. This doesn't last forever. You're going to want to do it like that. So you have at least 8 milk removals in 24 hours. That will help protect your milk supply. It will help bring it in when you're separated from baby. Or if baby is struggling to nurse well, they are not removing milk from the breast, they're really sleepy, they're having blood sugar issues, anything like that, you're going to want to hand express after each time they nurse and or pump to protect your supply. It's hard to give a blanket recommendation of what you should do because I don't know what's going to happen with you and your baby. But generally speaking, if baby's not feeding well and they need to be supplemented, either with a syringe, a cup, a bottle, things like that, you're going to want to do something to remove milk from you to replace that supplementation. This can quickly devolve into what we call triple feeding, where you're nursing, pumping, and feeding baby through another means every feeding, which, as you can imagine, takes a long time. And when you have to do that every 3 hours, 8 hours a day, it becomes really overwhelming. So don't miss out on the piece where you're supposed to follow up after you leave the hospital with someone who specializes in breastfeeding support. And of course, your pediatrician too. You should not leave the hospital triple feeding without an exit plan, without a sustainability check-in, without any further advice. Because if you're needing to triple feed, there's a reason for it. And there are steps that need to be taken based on your personal situation of how to get out of triple feeding. Once you are home from the hospital and you're checking in with your pediatrician every so often, you'll normally see them within 24 to 48 hours after leaving the hospital or your birth center or wherever you gave birth. Then you're probably going to check in at a week or 2 weeks, even more frequently than that, depending on what's going on with babies, hydration, weight, things like that. So in those first 2 weeks, just keep it top of mind that if your pediatrician recommends starting to supplement, or if your pediatrician recommends you need to start to supplement, have that trigger go on the back of your mind. I need to remove milk while my baby's getting supplemented, and I need to see lactation for a personalized plan. So those first 2 weeks, remember, supply and demand. Pumping or hand expressing is telling the nerves on your chest and breast. They're telling the nerves there to send a signal to your brain to make milk. So that's why stimulating every 3 hours is really important. You're not going to get a lot at the beginning. Don't be discouraged by that. It's not necessarily about how much you remove in the beginning. It's about how much you're telling your body to make. So it's very normal. You're going to see a little drops in the beginning, and then it's going to ramp up from there. Remember that baby's tummy size is like 5 mLs on the first day, and then it slowly gets up to an ounce on the first week and a little bit more there beyond. But drops in the early days, it's very normal, and it's all your baby needs. That's why they eat often. So don't get discouraged when you're pumping or hand expressing. You're not getting a lot. You're doing the work of telling your body to make milk. And if you're not separated from your baby, which I really hope you're not, frequently feeding your baby, that is how you protect breastfeeding. And in the newborn days, hunger cues is like literally anytime they open their eyes or they move in those first 2 weeks. So if they're crying, you've waited a little too long, you've missed some early cues, it's okay. I've done the same thing. Regular milk removal at the breast from your baby is ideal. And then if you need to do anything else, you've got your pump or your hand expression as a backup to protect your supply. If you're nursing frequently, it'll probably be like 8 to 12 times in 24 hours. Each feeding will vary in how long they are. They'll probably vary in how far apart they are. Remember, babies are not robots. They are hungry and thirsty at random times like we are. So if you're following their cues and you're feeding often, you're seeing them have sucks and swallows. They're content for a period of time after nursing. They are making good wet and dirty diapers, and their weight loss and gain is appropriate. Those are how we know that baby is getting enough. I like to think of it as cow. Contentedness, output, and weight. Cow. And then once your milk starts to really come in with abundance, you'll notice your breast feels softer after feeds. So there's ways that you can tell on your body that baby is transferring milk well at the breast, and you can watch your baby for signs that they're getting enough. So if all of that is going wonderful in textbook in those first 2 weeks, you're good to go. But if it's not, and baby is maybe not having enough output, or they're not gaining weight as well as we need them to, they have any other medical issues coming up, like they have jaundice or blood sugar issues, or your supply is taking a little bit longer than typical to come in, these are reasons why you might need to supplement. And this is why in those first 2 weeks especially, you've got to be removing milk when you supplement. I've put together a free guide about how to protect and advocate for your breastfeeding journey. I want every pregnant mom to have it, so I'm giving it away for free. I'm going to drop the link here below. You can also enroll in my Simple Start course. It's only $27, so it's super accessible and easy to follow. I hope these tips help you so that you can be prepared and ready to protect and advocate for the breastfeeding experience that you deserve, starting in pregnancy and moving into those early, critical 2 weeks postpartum.